There's an LA teachers strike that may happen in Los Angeles. And there was a op-ed written by a LA Unified School District teacher, Glenn Sachs. And he's pointed out a lot of problems at the LAUSD. The district claims it doesn't have money to fund what the teachers are asking for, even though the district admits it has $1.2 million in reserve.
Million?
I'm sorry, billion. $1.2 billion in reserve. The teachers union believes the reserve is even significantly larger than they're saying. The strike is scheduled to begin October 3rd. And the California, get this, ranks 48th out of 50 states in teacher to student ratio, meaning they have huge class sizes. LAUSD is often the worst offender in the state when it comes to class sizes. His school started, this teacher, Glenn Sachs' school started this month with at least 70 classes of 40 or more students. Many LA Unified, so in other countries that have better educational outcomes, their classes are 20 students and they often have 2 or 3 teachers per class. High schools started this, many LA Unified schools do not have full-time nurses or librarians. The union is demanding 1 full-time librarian for every middle school and high school and 1 full-time nurse for each school. In one of the most expensive cities in the world, Los Angeles, the average teacher's take-home pay is roughly $5,000 a month. So let's bring in Glenn Sachs. He's a LAUSD teacher who wrote this op-ed, and he's here to talk about the potential strike in Los Angeles. Hi, Glenn. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, is there anything I missed in the run-up to this segment that you'd like to add right now?
Oh, there's a million things to add. I mean, just to be clear, we're preparing to be ready to strike by early October. We don't know if that's actually going to happen. And of course, we don't want to strike, but we also don't want to sign a bad contract. Right now, we're basically being offered nothing. We have a terrible problem with class sizes. We're being offered nothing on that. One of the things, just to show you how reasonable our demands are, how little we're asking for, the student to counselor ratio, we're asking that it be brought down to 500 to 1, down to 500 to 1. That's one of the things we're asking for. To have nurses, to have librarians, to properly be staffed. A lot of the counselors and other out-of-class personnel, they have to waste their time on yard duty, lunch and nutrition. They have all these other responsibilities. Think of it right now as we speak. I mean, I'm here at lunchtime in my school. Right now as we speak, these counselors, not only do they have 500 kids each to manage, but they have to waste their time at lunch and nutrition worrying about whether kids are throwing their orange juice cartons out in the trash can properly instead of dealing with their students. It's just a problem throughout the whole system. We're stretched thin, the class sizes are too big, we don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough counselors, we don't have enough librarians, we don't have enough nurses. We're being vilified in the media already, being vilified by LAUSD as being greedy. Most of our demands have nothing to do with money for us. I believe in money for us too, but most of our demands have nothing to do with money for us. They're about improving our schools. And right now, the district is basically offering us nothing. They're offering us nothing on all of these demands, and they're offering us a 2% raise over a period of 3 years. That's not a pay raise, that's a pay cut, because that's less than the rate of inflation.
So when people say, hey, we spend more money on education already than the rest of the world, and we have worse outcomes, and the answer isn't more money to these things. How is it that we spend, people say we spend so much money on our education in California or in the United States, yet we have situations like this, 40 kids in a classroom. That doesn't happen in other countries. So is it because they're not spending the money they have correctly, or because they're poorly managed, or because we just don't spend enough money on education in the United States? What is the problem, you think, exactly?
I don't think we spend enough money on education in the United States. That's the biggest problem. Mismanagement, maybe. LAUSD gets criticized for being top heavy, having too many people there, spending too much money in their downtown operation rather than in the schools. That may very well be true. I don't know. But the biggest thing is we're not spending enough money. And there's so many things that other countries have. One of the things that I dislike about this job, and I love being a teacher, I love my students, you will never ever hear me complain about my students. But what I don't like is how spread thin we are. And one thing that you have in these other countries, a country like Japan, you have 2 or 3 hours of planning time a day. Here in Los Angeles, you only have 1 period of planning time a day. That's if you don't have to go substitute for somebody, and sometimes you have to do that. You got to go cover their class. You go the whole day sometimes without having any time to plan, to grade papers, or any of that. You know, we're just worked very hard. I mean, during the school year, I'm working 70 hours a week at least. You know, I just think we could do a better job if we had more personnel. And really what we need is more money spent. That's really what it comes down to.
So, Stef, we have here Stef Zamorano was a union teacher in the Glendale Unified District for many years. Stef, do you want to ask any questions?
Hey, Glenn, I'm so glad that you're standing up for the students and your community and standing with other teachers. And what people have to remember is that when you're standing up for your rights, you are invested in your student body. And I want to ask you, what lessons did you take away from the experience of teachers in West Virginia, Arizona, and Kansas?
Well, it's very interesting because West Virginia and Arizona, I don't know as much about Kansas. Those strikes were completely illegal. Completely illegal. They had no right to strike at all. Here in California, the labor laws are better, but there they had no right to strike at all, and they all went out and they all won. Nobody went to jail. Nobody was punished. You know, they had the support of the parents. They had the support of the community. The picket lines were solid. Everybody went out and they won. And here we are. You know, those are in poorer states, Republican states, states where you don't even have the right to strike. Here we are in California, a state that's run by the Democratic Party, has been run by the Democratic Party for a long time, although we still are in this lousy situation with our schools. You know, the laws are sympathetic to us. You know, I think, you know, we need to fight for a good contract. If it means we have to strike, it means we have to strike. But, you know, the district's crying poverty. And, you know, I know they have financial problems. I'm not saying they don't have any financial problems. They also, according to their own document, they said they have $1.8 billion in reserve. But the bottom line is, you know, if we're gonna just tolerate these conditions, if we're gonna tolerate all these classes with 40 or more kids in them, if we're gonna tolerate the understaffing, you know, now, when exactly is it gonna change? Supposedly the economy is good now. Supposedly the state is in relatively good condition now. You know, we're supposed to just, you know, we see the media, the newspapers telling us, well, they have no money, things can't change. If we're supposed to tolerate it now, when exactly is it going to change?
Well, you know, I just want to also add that, you know, when a high school teacher says that their class size is 40 or more, that doesn't mean just one class of 40 or more, because you're teaching about 5 periods a day, maybe 6 periods a day. So you could have close to, when I was a high school teacher, I had over 180 students that I would come into contact every single day. Now, I want to get back to the idea of that you don't have librarians, you don't have enough nurses. So when you have a class of just 40 kids, how can you really meet the needs of those students academically and make sure that they are having a healthy environment around them?
Well, you know, that earlier point you brought up is very important, and it's almost entirely ignored in this whole debate.
Yes.
It really irritates the hell out of me. But, you know, it makes a big difference on a Saturday. I spend my Saturday grading exams, grading essays. I give open answer exams. That's what's best for the students. It's a big difference whether I've got to grade 125 papers or 175. It makes a big difference, okay? And all of the papers we have to grade, the essays we have to read, it makes a big difference. The class size is just because there's only so much work you can do. One of the things I find very frustrating too is that you're just not able to give the kids the individual attention that you would like to do. There's so many things you can do for kids. So many nice little things you can do for kids. You can't see it right here, but over off to the side there, I've got a TV screen on my classroom door, and it opens out to the hallway. And there I like to have these PowerPoints where I celebrate the achievements of my students. So-and-so is really improving. So-and-so had a great question. So-and-so was most valuable player in our review contest. All these nice little things that make them feel better, that are nice little things for them. It's very difficult to do because you just don't have enough time to do it. And the reason you don't have enough time is you're teaching too many students.
So if they have $1.2 billion in reserves, why aren't they spending it on improving education? Why don't they want more counselors? Why don't they want more nurses? Why don't they want a better school? So what are they hanging on to that $1.2 billion for?
Well, they say it's $1.2 billion, but when they listed with LA County what they had, they listed $1.8 billion. So we're not sure exactly how much they have. You know, look, to some degree, you know, they do have financial problems. The pensions we get are expensive. The medical care we get is expensive. I'm not going to say that the district, you know, they're just being Scrooge, that they don't have any financial issues, it's very difficult to tell what exactly their finances are. They're not very it's a very opaque process. It's not very clear. But I think part of it is that they just don't want to spend the money on public schools. The guy running the LAUSD, Austin Butner, he's a new guy. I've tried to have an open mind. I've tried to be fair to him. I even had a column a few months ago where I, in a very friendly manner, gave him my advice as to how to do his new job. But from everything we see, he's the anti-union, anti-public school, pro-charter privatizer that the union has always said he is. And I don't know that these people really believe in public schools, and I don't know they really want to invest in our schools.
Steve, Malcolm, do you have any questions for our guest, Glenn?
I wanted to ask Glenn, specifically in your op-ed, you talk about a previous contract with the LA Unified School District where it was stipulated that if the district was in a financial crisis specifically, then the rules that had been established or whatever the agreements that had been made before, they could violate those rules. And I'd like you to explain that a little more and ask you if you feel like this is an example of the teachers conceding something and in good faith and then being taken advantage of, which I may be leading the witness admittedly, but I'd like to get your take on it.
Well, that's probably a pretty good description of it. The class sizes are too high. I'm not going to say that there's an average of 40, but there's a lot of classes that have 40, 45 kids in them. What's happened is this: every contract we have, we negotiate class size limits, right? Class size averages and class size limits, okay? But what happens is there's section 1.5 in the contract that says that if the district has a financial crisis, they can get rid of those and they can lay people off, okay? And they do that practically I was laid off a few years ago myself. Okay, they do that practically every year. Okay, according to the union, there's no other school district in California that has the same type of provision in it, and we just want the provision gone. I mean, originally it was probably a decent idea, it was probably a fair idea, but now all it is just every year they're able to invoke this.
The point is that the contract stipulated that if the school district has a financial crisis, okay, we can get a pass on a lot of these stipulations we agreed to. One of which was class sizes, and it's supposed to be in a crisis situation. Okay, sort of like declaring martial law. And now the LA Unified School District is just saying we're in basically a perpetual state of financial crisis. So initially, in good faith, I think the teachers agreed in their contract to say, okay, yes, you can violate these in those very rare occasions when, there's a financial crisis in 2008, for example. If something like that happens, then okay, you can lay off teachers, but not unless but it's who decides what's a financial crisis? Sort of like who decides at YouTube what violates the terms of service?
Right.
So the school district gets to say when they're in a financial crisis. So now the teachers are punished for being agreeable and for allowing this stipulation in the contract. And so now they're just asking, look, you violated the spirit of it by invoking it constantly, so now it needs to be eliminated. And I'm sure the question is whether the school district, when they insisted on it initially, did so in good faith, and now they're just violating it, or they knew all along, and in which case then you have to negotiate with them on a basis of bad faith, that you have to assume bad faith on their part.
That's interesting that you say that they need to negotiate with them, because the school district, LA Unified School District, has refused to negotiate with the union, and they actually they got a mediator to come in, and the mediator was trying to get a meeting with them, but the school district itself doesn't want to meet until the end of September. So you tell me who really cares about the students. So the union cares about the students because they want to protect the environment in which the kids are coming to. And if you don't have counselors in this day and age with 8 wars and people suffering because they don't have health care, and you don't have access to a school counselor or a nurse or a librarian, how are you really serving the student body? So it's outrageous. They're still working without a contract that expired last June.
Glenn, how do you see unity in the union? Do you think that they will hold together for a strike?
Well, I can speak at my school. I'm at one of the largest schools at LAUSD. We began our strike vote on Thursday. Within 24 hours, 95% of the people have voted. Right now, there's just one guy who's out on paternity leave. I got to get his vote. Everybody else has voted. If there's 1 or 2 no votes, I'd be surprised. But perhaps even more importantly than that is that practically everybody has signed this sheet that says we will strike if we have to, and we will honor the picket line. We'll join the picket line every day during the strike. And almost every teacher here I don't know, maybe we missed one or two, but almost every teacher here has signed that, saying that if they have to, they will strike. One of the things that I anticipate possibly happening is that when we announce the strike vote, LAUSD or the anti-union people in the media, they might try to claim that, well, the union's exaggerating, you really didn't get that kind of a vote. We're gonna have 30,000 signatures on these pledge forms where people are pledging to strike. There's no arguing with that. There's absolutely no arguing with that.
And so, again, Steph made the point that the LAUSD won't even meet with the union. How does that? What is the advantage in them? Is it because they can, when maybe people get back to school and they don't, and they're upset at the teachers? It has to be they think it's going to hurt the teachers somehow for them not to meet with you. What is that? What is that about? You think?
Well, I'm not sure. And again, I'm giving you the in the trenches view. What I'm saying is not official from the union leadership. But, we negotiated with them for about a year. We declared an impasse. We began or supposedly began mediation, or supposed to begin mediation in mid-August, maybe even a little earlier. And we couldn't get LAUSD to be a part of the mediation process. And now they say they won't meet until September 27th. They've scheduled September 27th. That's 6 weeks out. I'm guessing, I don't know, I'm guessing their logic is that they want to push us all the way back to November, mid-November. Then we start getting tangled up in the Thanksgiving holiday, the Christmas holiday. We can't really do anything until next year. We lose a lot of the momentum that we have. I'm guessing that's what they're doing.
Yes.
I don't really know, but it's interesting because if we go on strike, we're going to be, we already have things in the newspapers here vilifying us. Oh, the children, how much the children will be hurt. It's LAUSD that's refusing to negotiate. It's LAUSD that's refusing to offer us a decent contract. I'd also like to say too, for all those people who say, oh, those teachers, it's so terrible, they're gonna strike. We haven't struck in 29 years. It's been 29 years since United Teachers of Los Angeles has struck, and we have put up with these terrible conditions and high class sizes and budget cuts and understaffing and all these abuses for almost 30 years without striking. And now if we go on strike, again, I hope we don't have to, if we go on strike, it's gonna be, oh my God, look at the teachers, look at what they're doing to our kids. After we put up with this nonsense for almost 30 years.
I couldn't agree more, and it seems like the people who are in control of public education in the United States from coast to coast are not dedicated to the idea of public education. And it's not a crazy idea, I think. I think it's manifest that the people who are in charge of our education, when it used to be Arnie Duncan, now Betsy DeVos, all the way down to places like local school boards, the people in charge want to privatize public education, make it into a profit-making enterprise for corporations. And we all know how that goes. They serve the profit motive. They don't serve the students when that happens. So anyway, Glenn, I want to say we're out of time, but I want to say thanks for taking time and talking with us. Thanks for your op-ed, and we hope you can check back in with us to give us an update on how things are going with the potential strike of LA teachers.
I'll be happy to. Thank you.
Okay, and we have okay. So thank you very much. That was Glenn. Now I want to.
I just want to add something to it. That the district constantly is saying, "Oh my gosh, this will really be hurting the students." Guess what? Do you think there are teachers that work in the LA Unified School District and their children attend those schools?
Right.
Do you think that these people don't have any children, that they're or are they shipping in all the teachers? So that these teachers in LA School District, what is it, the second largest district in the country? Yeah. Their kids attend LA Unified. And they have to risk their financial well-being right now because
to go on strike.
Yes, because it'll affect their family. Right. It'll affect the future. It affects their retirement. It affects so many elements. And I fled teaching after 30 years teaching. I fled it because their class sizes are growing larger. Parents are freaking out because they want their kids to have access to better colleges and public schools. And what happens is I just see like it's pitting people against people, ordinary people against ordinary people, while people who have power and control are mismanaging. And so, I've seen this before.
Yeah, so, as we all know, in 2005, the military budget was $500 billion, and now it's $700 billion. Did the same thing happen to the teacher's budget? Did it go by 40% over the last?
Did it increase 40%? No.
Did that happen?
I don't think it was 40%.
When I was in Glendale, we rarely got any kind of cost of living increase. In the meantime, they got rid of all the librarians.
They got rid of them.
So let me ask a real question. The last one.
Glendale.
Just real quick. Is there a school district in America that all other school districts look to and say, that's what we want? Like they do it right, we want that. And if there is one like that, I think every single school district should go on strike at the same time, all over the country, until they get that.
So I don't know of a district that people point to, but if there is one, it is a rich district.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today.